Welcome, everyone. My name is Trina Scully, Outreach and Events Manager for the Saskatoon Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber team and many of you are participating today from Saskatoon, which is situated in Treaty 6 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis people. As a Chamber, we are committed to growing a Saskatoon rooted in shared success, respectful relationships, and true reconciliation. If you are joining us from other parts of the province today, a warm welcome to you and thanks for being here. This is our Power Up events series, which features industry experts who can provide Chamber members with real-world tips and tools and give their businesses a boost. Today's format is simple. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please enter them into the chat below, and Blaine will answer them for you. Our featured speaker today is Blaine Arnold, founder and president of Pinnacle Performance and Consulting, Inc. and Sandler Training, Saskatchewan, a training and consulting business dedicated to furthering the professional development of business executives and sales leaders through comprehensive reinforced training and executive coaching. Blaine possesses a proven track record of success as a trainer and coach and brings added value to any company seeking sales, marketing, training, coaching, and improved client retention. Aligning with the #1 training organization in the world with 50+ years of worldwide success, Sandler Training allows him to help countless business professionals achieve exceptional success. Please welcome Blaine Arnold.
Thanks, Trina, and thanks, Henry, and thanks to the Chamber for having us on here today. So really appreciate all of you taking some time to learn a little bit more about Sandler Training. So just a quick background on myself. I've been in sales and sales management for over 20 years. I'm Saskatoon based, lived here my entire life. Sandler is actually, so the company is Saskatchewan based and Saskatchewan owned. So I'm the owner of the business here. And I'll talk a little bit more about Sandler in a few minutes. But before I did that, I just wanted to kind of tell you a little bit about what we're going to do here today. Our session is going to be about 45 minutes long. And the topic of our session is maximize your sales team's performance in 2022 and break the rules and close more business. And what that means really is that a lot of us kind of continue to play by the same rules when it comes to business development, sales. And a lot of those same rules are very traditional in nature. So it's very traditional sales approaches that we learned many years ago, or maybe they're techniques that we just sort of developed on our own. But some of those could be leading to inconsistent results, or maybe just not allowing you to perform at necessarily the level that you'd like to. So for the next 45 minutes, we're going to talk about different systems, different selling systems that I would say kind of favor the salesperson at times versus selling systems that actually kind of enable the prospect to gather your information or gather your advice or gather your knowledge and then maybe just simply disappear. So we're going to talk about how to correct some of those problems. Some of those problems are very innate sales problems. So they can be systematic, they could be skills, they could be techniques, and some of them are actually conceptual. So they're things that we believe about sales. At the end of the discussion, I'm going to do have a bit of a conversation on some of the clients that we work with, and I'll make sure that I put my email in the chat at some point too. If any of you ever want to chat with me further, you'll be able to contact me via email. And we are going to use the chat a little bit today because I'm going to get some input from some of you. But before I do that, I'm going to share my screen and kind of get us onto the presentation. So I'm just going to give that a sec. I think everybody can see that. So yeah, so there we go. There's our topic to share a little bit about Sandler Training. So companies that use Sandler, research suggests that 50% more of their salespeople are hitting their targets versus those companies that don't use Sandler. We have some very big clients that we work with regularly. A small company called LinkedIn HubSpot, which is a large CRM company, Salesforce, which is the largest CRM company in the world. Those are all clients of Sandler Training. We've been in business for 50 years. So we operate in 29 countries. We've got 400 training offices worldwide, and new to Saskatchewan just in the last year. First time that Sandler's been in Saskatchewan. So we're the largest training and development organization in the world. We train on a methodology called the adult learning model. And so what that basically means is generally when people are maybe not satisfied with how things are going, that's kind of that awareness level of the adult learning model. What they tend to do first is they seek out knowledge. So a lot of people will read a book, they'll get on the internet, they'll maybe even go to a boot camp training session to try to learn something new. The problem with that is the retention of that is very low. So you generally will only retain about 10% of that information 90 days later. So what we do to kind of combat that is we add in a very important part to the adult learning model, which is application and reinforcement. And the way that adults learn, we tend to learn better if we learn in small chunks over a longer period of time. So the reinforcement and the application allows us to take what we've learned and actually apply it so that it becomes part of our day-to-day. And when it becomes part of our day-to-day, it becomes a new habit, it becomes a new behavior, it becomes a new skill. And that's the adult learning model that we train on. So it tends to be smaller chunks of material over a longer period of time, but that's how you get retention. Please feel free to take some notes. If you've got a piece of paper and a pen, take some notes. And like I said, we'll have some time for some questions later on. Try to make this as interactive as we possibly can, even though we're virtual. I want to talk a little bit about some of the biggest challenges that we see with our clients. So, and if you want, feel free to write down some of your biggest challenges and we can talk about them later. But generally what we see are clients that are experiencing these things. So they're experiencing lots of maybes and lots of think it overs. Their sales cycle is far too long. They're having to many times cut price or reduce margin to get deals done. They've really got no structured process in place to get deals done regularly. They find themselves in voicemail jail way too often with prospects. They're not getting enough quality referrals on a consistent basis. They're putting together detailed proposals and spending a lot of time on detailed proposals, but they're not necessarily winning the business. Having a tough time overcoming price. They're having a tough time getting to the real problems, asking better questions. They're maybe losing business to competitors. As I said earlier, identifying the real pains, the emotional reason for people to do business. And they're spending too much time providing free advice and providing unpaid consulting. So, the first thing that we do with our clients is we talk about these challenges and we try to get a better understanding of them to see how long they've been going on. What have they maybe done to combat that challenge, and what's the impact? So these challenges, what is the impact to the business? Is it lost revenue? Is it lost time? And generally, it's going to be one or both of those things. And then ultimately, it's identifying with them their commitment to changing it, because these things can be fixed, they can be changed, but they can't be changed overnight. They generally take a little bit of time. But identifying the biggest challenges and then identifying solutions to combat those challenges is a big part of what we do. One thing that we spend a lot of time with our clients is we have different types of Sandler rules that we sort of live by. And one of those rules is you can't sell anybody anything until they discover that they want it. And the other one is, people like to buy. We all like to buy, but we don't like to be sold to. We don't like to feel pressured. We don't like to have that feeling that somebody is selling to us. And so we will incorporate different pieces into our training to help us appear as not a traditional salesperson. So we'll work on things to help us differentiate ourselves from our competitors and from other people that are out there in the sales world, and really trying to break the traditional system of sales, which I'm going to talk about in a couple minutes. A big step to kind of moving forward with combating some of those challenges that I talked about earlier is understanding your current situation and really know what's holding you back. So I'll give you some examples here. Part of that is knowing what your current situation is. Is there a fear of letting go? Is there, do we have a pipeline of potential business that is sort of floating? We don't really know the status of it. We don't really know what's going on with it. It's sort of just floating out there. And is there a fear of letting go of some of that business? Is it, are we dealing with the real issue? Are we dealing with the real pain? Generally, prospects will come to us with surface problems. So these are problems that people will generally share with anybody, but people won't buy or won't change their situation based on a surface problem. So what we really need to do is we need to get to the real problem, which is the real pain. And so it's a process of really digging down deep to understand the real pain of prospects, because that's where the emotion is. So people will always buy on emotions, and they will always justify those emotions intellectually. So it's really key that we have a system that will be able to drive into uncovering the real pain. Another one would be, do we care more than the prospect? Because generally, if we care more, then the prospect is going to be in control, and whoever cares the least kind of controls the situation. So we have to sort of act like we have this mentality of that we don't really need the business, that we don't really need the deal, and almost this mentality that we're inherently wealthy, whether we are or we're not. We fake it until we make it. But by doing that, we don't come across as aggressive. We don't come across as necessarily pushy. So if we care more, we're naturally going to be more aggressive, more pushy. So there's some things here that we can do to break sort of the tradition of traditional salespeople or traditional sales managers that will help us sort of get through the sales cycle and differentiate. And maybe the fourth thing would be, do we have a broken belief system on things that we can't control? There's lots of things that we can't control in the sales system, but do we have a broken belief system through that process? So we spend a lot of time talking to our clients about something called the belief wheel. And I'll kind of explain this a little bit. If I'm a salesperson and I believe that people will always prefer a phone meeting over a virtual meeting, then what am I going to naturally think that my prospect thinks? Generally, I'm going to think that my prospects think the same way as I do. So now as a salesperson, what am I going to do? And what won't I do as a salesperson? So what I may not do is I'm probably not going to offer up a Zoom meeting or a virtual meeting because I have this belief system that they won't do it. And but what I will do is I will agree very easily to having a phone discussion. So if I don't believe that doing virtual meetings is more effective than doing phone meetings, then I naturally won't push for one. And I'll just kind of accept that phone meeting. And that's a bit of a belief problem that we have here. So the first question for you as you enter the chat is if you really want to make a change with something in your work life today, what do you think you need to change first? Do you need to change your actions or your beliefs? And that's what I'll ask you first and I'm going to give it a little bit of time for people just to enter in what they think they need to change first? Do they need to change your actions or your beliefs? So if you can just take a second and enter actions or beliefs, what do you think you need to change? Just go to your chat. We'll see if we can get a few answers. Lots of beliefs. Lots of beliefs. Good. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. So lots of beliefs. There's a both. So I'll kind of expand on this a little bit more. If I know that I'm way more comfortable behind the phone versus behind a virtual meeting, and I'm sitting in my house or in my office daily, telling myself over and over again how uncomfortable I am with a Zoom meeting, then when would I actually ever push my prospect or my client to meet with me virtually? I'm probably not going to. So a very important rule here is you can never let the way you feel control the way you act. You have to let the way you act control the way you feel. So people will always think that it's your beliefs that you need to change, but it's actually your actions. Your actions will eventually over time change your beliefs. If you focus on your beliefs, you'll never get change. You're just going to continue to do the things that you've always done. But if you actually focus on actions and change actions, you're going to find that your results will change. And when your results change, it will automatically change your beliefs, which basically over time will change your judgments, which is what we think our beliefs mean. So the key here is actually a lot of people will think it's changing our beliefs. It's actually changing our actions. It's kind of like the Nike slogan, just do it. It's just sometimes we just have to jump in and do it, even though it's not something that we necessarily feel comfortable with. So this is an area where we spend a lot of time with clients. Very important area, I think. Another place where we'll spend time is something called the dummy curve. And by no means are we calling anybody a dummy here, but this is really just the evolution of a sales-oriented person or a sales leader in some cases. And from the time that they first start in their role to the time where they become very experienced professional in their role. And so generally what happens is when somebody starts in a new role, they're in that beginner phase of their career. So some will call it the dummy phase because we don't really know anything yet. We don't have knowledge. We don't know anything about our products necessarily. We don't know much about our company. We don't know much about our industry. So what we end up doing when we're in that phase is we end up asking a lot of questions. And we actually don't really talk a whole lot. We just ask a lot of very good questions. And, I've seen many, many times that, brand new people into sales roles, sales-oriented roles, they have almost immediate success. And we sit back and we wonder, how could they be having success? Because they don't know anything. And the reason that they're having success is because they're asking a lot of questions. So then what a lot of companies will do is they'll take that beginner and they'll say, hey, look, we've got somebody here who's having some success. Let's get them some training. So then they slide them into product training and all different types of training to help them increase their knowledge. And what happens in that amateur phase is people start to talk too much. So they kind of get away from what helped them be successful to begin with, and they've just kind of stopped asking questions, and they get, I call it kind of diarrhea of the mouth. They just talk and talk and talk and talk. So I'll use an example here to help you kind of understand what I mean here is if my wife and I are going to go out to a movie tonight, and her and I are walking into the movie theater, and she says, okay, Blaine, I'll go get some seats and you go get some popcorn. So now I go to the concession and I get a popcorn. I got this big thing of popcorn that I'm walking through the lobby of the movie theater and I trip on the carpet and I spill my popcorn all over the lobby. Now I don't have any popcorn to eat during the movie. And it's the same thing that happens a lot of times in sales is early on in the sales process, we share way too much information. And we share so much information that we don't leave anything to share later on. And it really, really hurts us. So once we get out of that amateur phase of the sales career, we then enter the professional phase, and that's where we want people. So now we've got people that are fully trained, professionally trained. They've got full knowledge. They've got full knowledge of the industry, company, products and services. But what they do is they act like a dummy on purpose. So they act like a beginner on purpose. So what they're doing is they're going back to what helped them be successful in the first place, which is asking a lot of questions. But now they have the power of that professional training and the power of that knowledge and the power of that experience. And usually that's where we see people really take off with their success, is when they get that professional phase. And a few rules of thumb here that I'm going to share. One is your prospects and clients should be talking 70% of the time. And you as a sales professional or as a business leader should be talking 30% of the time. And I think quite often we flip that, or maybe even worse. And the problem with that is that we lose a lot of the power of our communication. So a few things to also keep in mind here is that 55% of your communication is body language, and 38% of your communication is tone and tempo, and only 7% of your communication is the actual words that you share. So it's not really what you say, but it's how you say it. And the thing is when we get on the phone, that even changes even more. So my example earlier about phone versus video, when you're on the phone, 88% of the effectiveness of your call is tone and tempo, and 12% is words. So you've lost 55% of your communication success by going to phone versus the video, which is a huge part of communication. So I wanted to share this with you because this is obviously an area that we spend a lot of time in as well. And I wanted to next kind of talk a little bit about the importance of being creative. So if you can go back into your chat, and I just want you to answer this question and just take a wild guess if you don't know. But what do you think 40% of salespeople say is the most challenging part of their job? If you can just go into your chat and enter that, that would be great. So Joe says closing the sale. Let's get a few more in here. Just go into your chat. What 40% of salespeople say is the most challenging part of their job. Tammy says cold calling, prospecting. Michael, quote to close. Trish says getting my foot in the door. Crystal, getting a response to the proposal. Getting a hold of the client. Good, thank you. Thanks for sharing. So 40% of salespeople say the most challenging part of their job is prospecting. And it's a part that, I always say you're never going to have to stand in line to make a cold call. There's certain activities in prospecting that people just don't enjoy. But I'm going to share the importance of being creative in prospecting. If you were to send an email to somebody who doesn't know who you are, 20% of the population will actually open that email and read it. So 80% of the population will actually never get your message. However, if you take that exact same content and you put it in a video and you send that video either through LinkedIn or through an email, 80% of the population will actually open up and watch that video. So you could have the exact same content. It's just email versus video. And, and it's just kind of being creative with some of your prospecting. There's some great resources available to you. There's a program called Vidyard, Vidyard. And it's a video, you can produce videos in like 10 seconds. And you can send them to clients as emails, or you can send them through LinkedIn. The key to this is you need to be raw and authentic. You don't want it to be scripted. You don't want it to be professionally edited. You just want it to be you, just like you would speak to the person if you bumped into them in the hallway, or if you actually got on the phone with them. It's got to be raw and authentic. And I think that's where people sometimes make mistakes with video prospecting. The other thing is it needs to be short. So it needs to be 60 seconds tops. It should be 90 seconds. So you need to be able to share your 30-second or your 60-second commercial in a very short period of time, because people will tune you out. They start to tune you out after about 45 seconds. And so you got a very short window here to make an impact. And the last thing is there needs to be a call to action. So something that helps them lead to kind of a next step. But I'm a salesperson, so I can say this, but salespeople wrecked the phone by prospecting by phone. We wrecked it. It kind of took away a great tool for a lot of people, because now people are just kind of not receptive to the phone. And salespeople have wrecked email, because now people don't respond to many emails, because salespeople have used that as a massive resource. But video is the next thing, and salespeople haven't wrecked it yet. So it's a very effective tool to use, and not a whole lot of people use it. And so you can really differentiate yourself by using video. And there's a lot of great free resources out there to use it. Talk a little bit about a Sandler rule, and that is you cannot fail at prospecting unless you fail to prospect. So again, this is a little bit of that actions versus beliefs. If I have the belief that, when I call people, nobody wants to talk to me, or when I call people, I'm interrupting them, and I'm a pest, I'm a distraction. That's a belief. An action says just do it, and you literally cannot fail at it unless you just don't do it. So it's really about deciding what you want, building a plan, and you literally can bet on the outcome. So I talk to a lot of my clients about the importance of skill versus effort. And if you have a sales professional who is a 10 out of 10 in skill, but they're a 2 out of 10 in effort, they're going to fail. It's not a matter of if they're going to fail. It's just a matter of when they're just going to fail. And so whereas if you had a salesperson who is a 10 out of 10 in effort, and they do all of the behaviors, they do all of the activity, all of the calls, all of the prospecting activities, and even if their skill isn't super great, they're going to have success, and over time their skills are going to get better. So it's really about just deciding what you want, building a plan, and a lot of these behaviors can be more predictable. A lot of the outcomes can be more predictable. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about something that is called the buyer-seller dance. And a lot of people share with me after that this is kind of sometimes the thing that they get the most out of my discussion. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the traditional buyer-seller dance. And, we as salespeople have systems that we follow, but a lot of people don't realize that buyers or prospects have systems as well. So I'm going to take you through this. So generally, the first step of the sales process for a salesperson is we're going to qualify needs, and we're going to do a bit of a needs analysis. And then from there, what we're going to do is we're going to jump into some sort of presentation or some sort of proposal. And then on average, we're going to close 22% of those presentations. That's actually the sales industry's average close rate, 22%. 78% of the time, we're not going to close. But we're always going to attempt to close following a presentation. So like I said, 22% of the time we'll be successful, 78% of the time we won't. And 78% of the time we end up chasing. So we end up chasing people around, and we can chase for weeks, months, even years in a lot of cases. The buyer system, let's talk a little bit about that. So the buyers on their end, when we are qualifying needs and doing a bit of a needs analysis, our buyers are acting motivated. And a lot of times they'll mislead us. They'll put up their defense wall a little bit. And the reason that they will act motivated is because they know that we have information to share with them. They know that we have knowledge to share with them. So because they're acting motivated, the traditional salesperson will jump into a presentation or a proposal. And then from there, the buyers love that because you've given them exactly what they want. You've given them free advice, you've given them free information, and you've given them unpaid consulting. They've made no commitment to you whatsoever, but you've spilt your popcorn in the lobby. And so what we've done then is we then jump into a close. And like I said, 22% of the time we're successful. 78% of the time our buyers are going to avoid commitment. They won't necessarily say no, but they're not saying yes. And the reason that they're not saying no is because they a lot of times feel like there's still more that they can get from us. There's still more information that they can get from us. There's still more unpaid consulting or free advice. So then we get into this habit of chasing people. And then from there, eventually what will happen is the buyers will go into hide mode. So they will literally enter the witness protection program. You know, they've gone from being motivated and very interested in what we had to share with them to just 4 steps later, hiding on us, and literally they're not returning emails, not returning phone calls, not responding to us in any way whatsoever. So I think the questions I would ask you here is how many proposals do you have out there that are just kind of floating around? You know, are you dealing with the right pain? Are you dealing with surface pain, or are you dealing with the real pain, the real reason for people to do business with you, which is always going to be based on emotions. And because if you're not, a lot of times this comes down to the buyer-seller dance comes down to selling on price. And it comes down to, if you're the lowest price, you're going to get the deal. And if you're not, you're not. And it's not based on value, and it really needs to be based on value. So we need to ask ourselves, you know, why are people going to buy from us? You know, how are we different? What sort of differentiation are we using? And this is a very important part of the selling process to understand. It's important to understand that buyers have systems, just like we have systems on the sales side. So in that situation, who is leading the buyer-seller dance? You know, the buyer has all of the control. The buyer has all of the power. There's no equal business stature. And literally the one with all of the power is making all of the rules. So what I do with clients is I work with them on breaking the tradition of the buyer-seller dance. And so part of this is, first of all, being disarmingly honest. And this is part of our bonding and building rapport part. You know, telling people right off the bat that we don't know if we can help them separates ourselves from the clutter automatically, because the traditional salesperson, first step, they're trying to sell to everybody. They think that everybody is a prospect. They think that everybody is a client. And so the traditional salesperson literally is trying to sell to everybody. And so they're not differentiating in any way whatsoever with their prospects. So the first thing that needs to happen is we need to be disarmingly honest. Let's be honest with people. We don't know if we can help everybody. We don't even know what their needs are yet. We have no idea what their situation is. We have no idea what their budget is. So let's just be disarmingly honest, and let's just tell people that we're not sure if we can actually help them. We're not sure if we can be of service to them. The other thing we train a lot on is something called an upfront agreement. And the upfront agreement really sets the tone for the meeting. So it's not a written agreement or anything like that. It's really just making sure that we have a clear understanding of our prospects' agenda or our client's agenda, and that they have a clear understanding of ours. And it's important that it goes in that order, because your prospects and your clients, as much as you'd like to think they care about your agenda, they care about their agenda more. And so we want to make sure that we're allowing them to share their agenda with us first. and then we'll share our agenda with them. And we'll actually talk about outcomes very early on in the sales process. So we'll talk to them about what yeses mean. Doesn't always mean that it's a sale. A yes might just mean that we've got a confirmed meeting for a week from now or 2 weeks from now. But we talk about what yeses sound like, and we talk to them about what no's sound like. And literally a no is anything that's not a yes. And we talk about the simple fact that we're not in the maybe and think it over business. We're in the yes, no business. And it's not being pushy aggressive, but it's at the end of the day, if somebody isn't at least going to give you time for a second meeting and aren't willing to put that into their calendar, then you got to really question yourself, like, is this really a prospect that I should be focused on? So having this upfront agreement is a very important part to setting the tone for future discussions. The next part of our sales process is something called actionable pain. And there has to be pain. In order for somebody to make a buying decision, there has to be emotional pain. And there's 5 different levels of pain. And the first one is pain in the present. So this is something where there's an immediate need. And I call it kind of low-hanging fruit. And this is really where a lot of times we're going to get, that 22% of our sales is going to come from this. It's something that needs to be taken care of, and it needs to be taken care of right away. The other type of pain that people will have will be pain in the future. So it's something that it's a future need or it's a future problem, but they know that they need to address it. The prospect knows that they need to address it. And other times it's going to be pleasure in the present. So it's something that they're going to gain pleasure from by doing something right now. And the fourth thing would be pleasure in the future. So they know what the experience is like, or they know what the experience is going to be like. They maybe have experience with you. They know it's going to be good, and it forms an element of their pain. But the fifth element of pain is something called interest and curiosity. And most sales organizations will put out proposals and presentations based on interest and curiosity. And this is not an emotional pain indicator. So interest and curiosity is not a level of pain. It's simply exactly that. It's interest and curiosity. So we have to stop putting out presentations and proposals based on interest and curiosity alone. The next thing that we want to spend time on is really having an understanding of the client's or the prospect's investment. And investment is not just the money that they're going to invest in it. A lot of times it's not about the money at all. It may just be time. It might be effort. They may have an existing relationship that they need to divest from. So we need to understand, are they willing to make this investment? Next thing we need to understand is their decision-making process. So, do we understand who is making the decision? What is the decision? When is the decision going to be made? Why are they making the decision? How are they going to make the decision? These 3 steps 3, 4, and 5, these are qualification steps. And my recommendation is that you never provide a proposal or a presentation to anybody until you've completed these qualification steps. And you really need to complete each step to the largest degree possible. And without gaining agreement, without gaining qualification at each step, I highly recommend that you don't do a proposal or don't do a presentation, because it's going to be impossible for you to get a buying decision without accomplishing that. If you do a good job on steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, step 6, which is fulfillment, is really just a very natural step that will happen. It's the close, it's the presentation, but it will just sort of naturally happen, and it won't really be a significant event in your sales process. So I say to a lot of my clients, if you wait until the end of a sale to close the sale, you've put way too much pressure on your prospect, and you've put way too much pressure on yourself. So this is all about gaining qualification and completing important qualification steps very early on in the process. And the best presentation that you ever will give will be the one that your prospect or your client never sees. The next step of this sales process is something called the post-sell. And the post-sell is a very important part of the sales process. It eliminates buyer's remorse. It sort of solidifies the business. I really think you need to post-sell throughout the entire process. Like even from setting an appointment with a prospective client, there's a post-sell that needs to happen there to eliminate people changing their mind on appointments, not showing up for appointments, things like that. But on the close of a sale, same thing. It eliminates buyer's remorse. It eliminates people changing their mind, that sort of thing. It's a very important part of the sales process. Second last screen here, I want to chat a little bit about what some of our clients look like. So generally our clients are, a few things. One is they're concerned that they're actively prospecting for more business, but they're having a tough time obtaining qualified leads. That's one of the reasons why they work with us. Another one is they might be worried that they're generating lots of opportunities and proposals, but they're having a tough time closing business. And then other times they're frustrated that maybe they're generating lots of opportunities to present their services, but they're forced to maybe discount or reduce margin, change pricing in some way in order to win the business. And then the last thing would be, I find a lot of clients are just irritated that they're wasting tons of time providing unpaid consulting, free advice, and just chasing dead files. And so we work with our clients in these areas to fix these types of problems. Last thing that I wanted to share is, before we open it up to questions, is if you're interested in a private chat, my email is up on the screen. So blaine.arnold@sandler.com. That's just a complimentary chat if you want to discuss things a little bit more and get a better idea whether or not we could be of service to you. I'll be straight up, we're not for everybody. There's certain clients that fit very well with what we do, but we're definitely not for everybody. So if you're interested to find out if maybe we're the right fit for you, just send me an email. Or you can go to our webpage, www.pinnacle.sandler.com, and you can learn lots about us there. And then obviously, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I share lots of content on LinkedIn daily, and so you can connect in and get access to some of that. So with that said, 12:45, so I'm happy I'll pass it back to Trina, and I'm happy to answer any questions that people might have.
Thanks, Blaine. So yeah, we'll just look in the chat, and if there's any questions you see there that you want to answer right now, if not, then we'll close it out. So we'll just take a couple minutes and you just let me know.
Yeah, feel free. I'll throw my email in the chat here too. There it is. So if anybody wants to send me an email to find out a little bit more, I'd be more than happy to chat with you. So sounds good. Somebody owns the Sandler franchise in the UK. That's great. Awesome. Doesn't look like we have questions, Trina. So that's perfect. Yeah.
Okay, well, with that, it leaves me to thank you, Blaine, for the advice and insight that you shared today for our members, and they can put it to work in their businesses today. Just a little reminder that we are on the look for great presenters such as Blaine on topics you care about. So if you have any suggestions for future topics or speakers, just let me know. Simply send me an email at events@saskatoonchamber.com. Also, be sure to check out all our upcoming events and register for those by visiting our website, saskatoonchamber.com, and follow the Chamber on social media at the Chamber YXC. And for all the latest, watch our weekly e-blast called the Chamber Check-In that comes out every Tuesday. And I just want to say thank you everyone for coming. Take care, and we'll see you next time.